NRLN lobbies in Washington, D.C. and across the country for retirees only and for health care and income security issues only. Medicare, Social Security, prescription drugs for health care side. Those things that are key to the economic success of retirees and prospective retirees. And so we try to reach an audience of 50 and over. Many of us have children, and some of us have grandkids who are going to be reaching the age where they're going to be looking for Medicare and Social Security. They're very important issues for us. We don't pay members of Congress one nickel. We don't make campaign contributions. We don't buy them anything. We build business cases and we make presentations on the Hill. And we're going back in February the 25th. We have about 40 people coming in from around the country who run our associations and chapters to lobby on the Hill. We've tried to lobby Webster, right, Ray?
Yep.
But he's a non-entity as far as we're concerned because he never shows up to anything. And he wouldn't allow us to even talk with him on the Hill, even his own constituents from the villages. So we don't honor people who don't support retirees, whether they are Democrats or Republicans. We try very hard to be nonpartisan because it's very easy to get brickbats thrown at you from either direction if you don't. So we work the issues and we lobby Congress. The AREF, we started in 2015, and it is our research arm that creates our white papers. If you go to our website, nrln.org, under the legislative agenda, you'll see a complete listing of all the topics that we have reduced to, some of them are 18, 20-page papers with executive summaries and talking points in front of them so that you can understand what these problems are. One of them is very serious and very dear to my heart because I did all the research on it myself, is the issue of Medicare Advantage plans and what's going to happen with them going down the road. Have they been a success? Do people like them or not? How many of you in here have a Medicare Advantage plan? Yes, great. And they are economically, they're a good deal. And here, I was back in this time when, the medical people up here did away with, they wouldn't accept you if you had traditional Medicare A and B, but it made you go to either a Medicare Advantage plan or go outside to find your doctor or your medical services. So across the country, Medicare Advantage plans are part of what's called privatization of Medicare. And that's what I'm going to talk with you about today in a little more detail. Here you see here is the Trojan horse. And what we say is that Medicare Advantage plans are the Trojan horse for privatization. And that the number one thing we have to do is protect the people who have already bought Medicare Advantage plans so that what is planned, if what is planned happens, you don't get dropped on your head because that's the plan. You're going to hear a little more about that in a minute. We think that this privatization is going to be good for insurance companies. It's highly profitable for the insurance companies. And the idea is to gain market share with Medicare Advantage plans, particularly healthy new people. How many people do you think turn age 65 a year?
A lot.
How many? Try 10,000 a day. 10,000 people in this country turn age 65 every day. So why are we concerned? In 2012, there were 50,000 people over age, 50 million people over age 65. Today, there are 60 million. By 2034, which is just a few years away, there will be 75 million. By 2060, when our grandchildren and great-grandkids get there will be 100 million American citizens over the age of 65, 1 in every 4 people. And so for the Congress of the United States to step aside and duck these issues and not fund these Medicare and Social Security and not take care of the future of this country and try and privatize it, turn it over to the insurance companies, is going to be a big problem. Today, the federal government spends $639 billion a year on Medicare and200 of it is Medicaid, and then the states match a good part of that. within 8 years or 9 years, that number will be near $1 trillion. And so what our members of Congress are doing is privatizing, trying to privatize it, so they won't have that line item on their books, so they can spend our tax revenue somewhere else. That's the game that's going on inside Washington, D.C. And you can sit down with your congressman and ask them about that. If they really know and tell you the truth, that's exactly what's happening. And it's in writing, by the way. There are documents that back up our report. So let's move to the next slide. And back prior to 1996, the private plans in this country that were actually, you might say, competing with Medicare were PPOs and HMOs, and they were just called private plans. And they had about a 4 or 5% market share of the Medicare business. In other words, 4 to 5% of the people over age 65 who were Medicare eligible actually bought a private plan. And then back, can't see this too well, 1997, when the Balanced Budget Act came about, President Clinton agreed to provide private plans a 3% subsidy to help them get started. So 3% of their cost was paid for by the federal government and didn't get charged to citizens as a premium or deductible or copay, for example. That drove market share, and effectively is the time, that's when privatization was born. Insurance companies had for years wanted to take over the Medicare market, and it was that point in time, in '97, when they first got a chance to show that they could do it. But the problem is, they couldn't do it. The problem is, they carry a 15% overhead and profit margin requirement, and Medicare's overhead is 3%. And since Medicare buys more products and services and serves more customers, they have the greatest buying power. So if you have the greatest buying power, and you have therefore the largest market share, and you have the lowest overhead and profit need, which is no need for profit, who's going to win in the marketplace? The guy with the lower market overhead. So private insurance companies understood this, that the only way you could get into the market with privatization was to get federal government to subsidize your business, and that's what they've done. From 97 through 99, more subsidies piled on, and they started programs like some benchmarking and rebates and various incentives for insurance companies, so that they really were provided more subsidies. In 2000, the Benefits Improvement and Protection Act was enacted, and if we can go to the next one. The BPA added a number of other benefits for insurance companies, and eventually, by 2003, if you remember prior to 2003, what were they called? Not Medicare Advantage plans, but Medicare Choice plans. And then in 2003, Congress passed the Prescription Drug Act. But in the middle of the night, they also amended the Prescription Drug Act to provide insurance companies 14 to 17% more subsidies for Medicare Advantage plans, and they retitled the Medicare Choice plans to become Medicare Advantage plans. So that led to silver sneakers, that led to eye care, vision care. And you thought the insurance companies were paying for it. Instead, it was coming out of your pocket when you paid your federal tax bill, or when you paid your payroll tax bill, because the government was offsetting those costs through subsidies, and they still are today. Market share by 2010 for Medicare Advantage plans soared to 24%, and the subsidies averaged about 14% or $15 billion a year to the insurance companies. Are you familiar with capitation? You know what that word is? You know what it means? I found that a lot of people who knows what it is don't know what it means. They think it's how you set doctors' payments. They think it's how you set a doctor's fee schedule, and it's not. As you know, in Medicare Advantage plans, maybe you don't know, let's take Medicare. Medicare fee for service, what we all know we had before we went to Medicare Advantage, or before there was a Medicare Advantage. The HHS, Health and Human Service people, negotiate a rate with doctors and hospitals and how much they're going to pay for an office visit, for some kind of treatment in the office or in the hospital for care. And so that's a direct by procedure negotiation, fee for service, FFS. That's standard traditional Medicare A and B. You're all familiar with it, I suppose. But with Medicare Advantage plans, the government pays the insurance company a capitation payment for every single enrollee that enrolls in a Medicare Advantage plan. And in that capitation payment is where the subsidies are. And what happens is that your insurance company, if the capitation payment is set at $1,000 a month, and they actually have to pay their providers $700 a month, they keep the $300. They don't pass it through to anybody. But because those extra benefits are there, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you pay your Medicare B premium, which is $134 a month, everybody does. But you may not pay any premium for your Medicare Advantage plan. You may not pay a deductible. You may not pay almost anything, except you may have a bigger out-of-pocket max. And the out-of-pocket maximum is what made Medicare Advantage plans possible, because it's a bet on the insurance company's part that they can hire younger people, healthier people who won't use that out-of-pocket, who won't exceed that out-of-pocket max. So they set the out-of-pocket max and they roll the dice, and they know what they're doing because they see all the numbers, they know right where to set it. And they ask you for maybe $50 a month in a premium, and you may end up paying $500 a year. The next year, though, if you break a leg and you go in the hospital, you're going to pay the $3,000. So they're betting that you won't use, that you won't exceed your out-of-pocket max, and that's how the calculations, the risk calculations take place. Well, the capitation payments get these incentives added to them as time goes on, and therefore nobody sees what the true cost is of the services that they pay for. The insurance companies negotiate with your doctor. The insurance companies today are irritating doctors more than Medicare used to irritate them about, kept arguing with them their fees, and you hear, well, gee, no more arguing. Well, that's not true. The government doesn't argue with them anymore, but the insurance companies do, because why? They get to keep everything. The lower their cost, the more money they get to keep, because the capitation payment is fixed per enrollee. Well, am I going too fast or slow, or if you have questions, come on with it later. So in 2010, the Medicare Payment Advisory Commission, called MedPAC, actually led to a good piece of the Affordable Care Act. And MedPAC discovered in its study that the federal government was overpaying these capitation payments by 14%. And they wanted to root that out. And that's basically what they call a wrong or improper payment. Did you know in 2012 what wrong and improper payments were in value? They, by definition, what they are is they pay the wrong people, or they pay the right people too much. There is some skullduggery, some fraud in there, but that's a very small part of it. In 2012, that number was $140 billion 1 year. Guess what it was in 2017? $141 billion. It went up $40 billion in 5 years. And a lot of it is clerical mistakes. A lot of it is people, forms not getting filled out right, hospital charges being wrong, or you or I not filling out a form properly, and they misinterpret it and pay you too much or too little. $141 billion a year, we're arguing about spending $3 or $4 billion here or there for people's health care and benefits in this country. It's just sickening. But that's what politics does, because most of our elected representatives are there to get reelected. And this is true across the board. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been in all their offices. I've been in Paul Ryan's office 2 times. He's a snake. Glad he's gone. He's the father of premium support, which is basically a furthering of the concept of privatization. That's his game plan. His and Brady, the chairman of Ways and Means, they're gone now. The new guy, Neil, will be pretty good. So we'll get some good people we can work with. But by and large, for example, Orrin Hatch is retiring from Senate Finance Committee. In the last 7 years, he was a senator. He's a senator. Last 6 years, his last term, he wouldn't let any prescription drug competitive bidding bill or importation bill get off his desk. He wouldn't put it on the committee calendar. And during that period of time, he took $750,000 in campaign contributions, knowing he wasn't going to run again, from the healthcare industry.
Sure.
And do you think they have to give that back? No. They put their wives on it. They make their wives a chairman of their campaign committee, and they go to Europe to study healthcare with their family and kids for 30 days, and it's all coming out of the campaign fund after they retire. They have a pretty good deal. Don't let them kid you. Okay, back to did I miss something? Oh yeah, I did have to talk about Ryan. Yeah. Okay. So MedPAC said strip out the 14%. You shouldn't be paying that.
No.
So when the Affordable Care Act passed in 2010, that was the plan. It was supposed to be taken down over 5 years and be done by 2016. The matter of fact is, our present conservative group in the HHS took it down half to 6%, and they left the rest of it in there for the insurance companies. So at that point, they didn't do the job. So that's still in there. So then they began, in 2019, is the first year of what I would call over the top, just over the top. Dumb for them to do it, I think, because their skirts are just flopping in the wind now. 3.4% increase in the capitation payment is being paid this year to Medicare Advantage plans, more than last year. And last year it was increased 2.85%. Did you get any of that money?
No.
You get better benefits?
No.
Get lower co-pays, lower premiums, anything like that?
No.
So who do you think has it? That's right. So what they did is they said, oh, now you can add new home benefits added to Medicare Advantage plans. And what are they? You can get shower bars installed in your showers. You can get transportation to and from the doctor. You can get some free over-the-counter medicines. You can get doctor visits to the house, and all of that. If the insurance companies offer those, and so far they're just rolling this out. Maybe you bought some of that. I don't know if you enrolled this time. Some of that may be in there, but the insurance companies are busy now trying to incorporate those benefits into their plans, and you're going to hear more about them. And they say, well, these will improve the health of people, therefore lower the cost of medicine. Sounds good. Sounds good. But the fact of the matter is, over this period of time, the health of our country has gone down.
No.
What?
Got older.
Well, yeah, yes, I mean, that's part of it. But it was all projected. It was all projected. You see what happens every year, every May, the Medicare Trustees Report and the Social Security Trustees Report, signed by 3 executive members of the Cabinet, goes to the House and the Senate and tells them, your Medicare program or your Social Security program is going to go broke in 15 or 20 years. The problem is, then Congress has to act. They have to add maybe to the payroll tax, or they have to find a way to reduce the cost of the system. They have to find a way somehow to deal with the issue, or not deal with it. just walk away with it and pretend it's not there. Because no politician in his right mind who wants to get reelected is ever going to say, I'll raise taxes. Did you ever hear him say that? George Bush Sr. said he wouldn't, but then he had to, then he did. So what goes on here is that they didn't address the issue. For 35 years, every trustee's report, every year went to Congress and said, if you don't do something, you're going to have a big problem out in 2034, 2040. And they're correct. It is a major problem because that cost is going up toward $1 trillion, and there's no more revenue unless they take some action. So what the action is cut benefits. And that affects not maybe us, but it's going to affect your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, and this society is going to suffer because people won't be able to afford anything. They still have their health care to deal with and the cost to deal with, but they're not going to have the wherewithal to be able to be a productive purchaser in our marketplace, and that's going to affect our GDP, it's going to affect the whole darn economy. It's going to be a real serious problem. Remember, by 2060, 1 in every 4 people in this country will over age 65. That's a lot of wheelchairs to bump into. At Walmart. So you can see the problem. The dynamics are, it's going to get worse unless somebody takes action. And it's all about the cost, stupid, that's what I tell you. You guys are dancing around talking about this program, that program. It's all about the cost. Until you get those prescription drug people and wring them by the neck, and they get honest. Until you tell a doctor, not every doctor has to have 2 Mercedes in his garage and own 3 homes. I mean, you look at the differences between our country and other countries. It's not socialization. It's not single payer that does it. It's the discipline they have. It's the attitude they have about who should get the bigger share of the pie, and that's a big problem for us. It's a big problem for us as a country to make any kind of shift in that way of thinking. Half the people who talk about single payer don't even know what it means. You know what it means? We have a single payer plan. Well, Medicare. What we need is a better administration of it. We need a better set of rules. Now we're paying Medicare Advantage plans, and we got Medicare. And two different subjects, 2 different venues trying to do the same thing. Instead of focusing on the cost issue for everybody. Okay. Here's a good tutorial. I told you that in 1999 we got the start, but then because the subsidies didn't take place, the number of people in Medicare Advantage plans and their market share sank from 18 down to 14%, down to 13% in 2004. And then when that Medicare Modernization Act kicked in and the subsidies kicked in, look what's happened since. Give them a free ride, and they've been able to penetrate to about 33% of everybody in Medicare is on a Medicare Advantage plan. Our concern is that could lead to real problems for you later on, and certainly for our kids. So that's what our focus is. Okay, we can go to the next one. The blue line shows the legislated subsidies. In other words, that's where the Medicare Modernization Act added subsidy, added cost to the Medicare program. And then the red line is cherry picking. And cherry picking takes a couple of forms, but cherry picking primarily is if you want to make more money, don't write insurance policies for people that are not healthy. Okay? So the law said before the 2003 Act was passed that you didn't have to take, until 2010 ACA was passed, you didn't have to take people with pre-existing conditions, and they did very, very well. But now, still pre-existing conditions are an issue. If they ever change that, we're all in trouble. All of us, especially anybody with a chronic illness, especially us, seniors. You just can't get rid of some problems. And that's the issue that insurance companies don't want to have on their books. They don't want people like us, like that. They want did you see the ads for Medicare Advantage plans this time out? during the enrollment period. But they went crazy across the country with all these advertising, all these free benefits, because they know 10,000 people a day, just that they're getting all the younger people, age 65, turn 65, Medicare eligible, they're after you in a minute. There is a rule called seamless conversion. The seamless conversion rule says that the Social Security community, the Social Security organization, shall provide the insurance companies with the names and addresses and phone numbers of everybody in the country that's going to turn age 65, 90 days before they turn age 65. So what do? They kick in their marketing program and come at you like crazy. Because, you know, you don't see many of them knocking on the door of a 65-year-old or 70-year-old who doesn't have insurance, but they're out after the younger people. So the very bottom section, though, so cherry picking is younger. Today, what cherry picking has to do with coding. There's a lot of insurance companies that are being sued right now for millions of dollars because they get caught reverse coding. They file a claim with Medicare for an office visit, $100. And then they have auditors go through and they check, that person had a shot, also got a shot also. So instead of code 6A, that should have been code 6C, which pays 30% more. So they refile the claim. And when in fact, in many cases they discovered they never did get that shot. So there's a lot of cheating that goes on with this coding, and that's part of this cherry picking issue. So in the bottom line, gray, you see that little short section there? It says VA on it. If you're a veteran and you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you can go get all your services from the VA. And they're much cheaper than if you have any co-pays or any other things to pay. If you're a vet, well, you're not going to have to pay those things if you go there. So if you get your service from the VA, and the insurance company's getting the capitation payment, they just keep the capitation payment. So the VA pays for it, the taxpayers pay for the VA, at the same time the taxpayers pay the capitation payment to the insurance company, and the insurance company's not out one nickel, and they get to keep the money. So now the Inspector General has found that one, and they're after that one. That's the kind of stuff that goes on. Okay. Here's the bottom line. Upper right-hand corner, traditional Medicare A and B, 39 million people in 2017. 67% of the enrollees, 33% of the enrollees were Medicare Advantage plan, 19 million people. So that's 100%, 58 million people. The next column is the amount of money in billions of dollars that were paid out. 602 billion of that, 65% were paid to traditional Medicare A and B. Yet there's 67% of the enrollment. Shouldn't that be higher? Their costs are higher? So you can see right, just at looking at those numbers, that there's something wrong. The amount paid to capitation payments was 210 billion for a total of 602. If you divide the amount paid, the dollars paid to 392 by 39, you get $10,051 paid per enrollee by the federal government. The total payments through the insurance companies or federal government. Medicare Advantage plans, $11,053. So the payment the outlay of cash per enrollee in Medicare Advantage plans is 10% higher than traditional Medicare. So what are they talking about when they say Medicare Advantage plans and privatization is a way to reduce costs and make people better in this country? It's all farce. Because the government is underwriting that with our tax, when we fill out the 1040, pay your taxes, they're using some of that money to pay these benefits under Medicare B. You know, Medicare A is pretty much paid for. It's pretty good shape. We pay the 1.4% all of our lives to Medicare A, that's hospitalization. It's Medicare B that's the problem. Physician services and services paid, done like in the hospital on an outpatient basis. That's where the big problem is. That's where the big bucks are. And so, it's and Medicare T, I didn't pay much attention to that. It's big, it's independent, but if you're in a Medicare Advantage plan, oftentimes they also give you, about 60% of the time, these plans include a prescription drug program as well. Okay. So what did the Congressional Budget Office tell the House Budget Committee last October? They said, if we implement privatization or premium support over by 2022, when we implement it, the federal government will save 15% in total payments. But the premiums paid by the people insured are going up 35%. When you net it all out, the total payments by effective beneficiaries go up 18%, the government saves 8%. So what that is, folks, is cost shifting, not cost savings. It's shifting the cost of health care to everybody in America off the company books. It's not saving or reducing the cost of health care. Okay, we're about done. I'm getting the book here. Oh, okay. Oh, great. Yeah, I'm actually near the end. Okay, thank you very much. I thought. So what are our conclusions? What do you conclude from the analysis of that? By the way, this entire white paper is on our website, nrln.org. Go to legislative agenda, go down to white papers, and you'll see it all. Everything we do is published. Everything we do, we communicate directly to our members via email. We'd love to have you. We've got a sheet out there, and you can sign up with these pages there. Just get the information, because we're not going to tell you. We're not going to tell you the political facts. We're going to tell you the truth. That's one thing our members appreciate. When you read this stuff, the bibliography in the back, the research that was done, every single number up there is in a government document. It is categorized for you on page 16 of the report. So basically, what do you conclude? Well, we conclude that the Medicare Advantage model can't work without taxpayer subsidies. Just by looking at the numbers, the data, and everything we know. Traditional Part A and B Medicare model is proven value effective. There's no proof out there that Medicare Advantage plans save a nickel over traditional Medicare A or B. So the CBO says, it was in the previous chart, as the Congressional Budget Office data that the Budget Committee uses to set the budget for the country that they approved last year. Spending would be 15% lower for the government. The beneficiary premiums would increase 35%. Net federal spending would be just 8% lower, but beneficiary net payment up 15%. About 2 to 1. So what does the government end up with? 8% net? I mean, being a little vulgar, it's like peeing in the ocean. What difference does it make? 8%. I mean, the policies are not effective, and it does not bring about a structural change that's going to be good for America. What it's going to do is shift all the cost, and you ought to be worried about this, on your kids. One of the other things is, can you back up just one? Great. No, 2? Oh, yeah, that's it. That was it. I'm sorry. I was looking at it. Without grandfathering, that says. Do you remember they were talking about grandfathering if they implemented premium support plan? Probably not. What they had originally costed this on was the cost of being able to tell people who were age 55 or over that they would be grandfathered and therefore would be protected until they turned age 65 and were on Medicare, that they wouldn't have to be part of privatization unless they elected to. Now that cost a lot of money to do that, because you guaranteed me that I wouldn't lose my traditional Medicare and A or B benefits, correct? What they did this time, the first time, is they've costed it without grandfathering. What that means, of course, is that if you add grandfathering back into that, there'd be no savings. And there'd be more money shifted on the people. So what they did is they did a jump shift. Now, it's absent of any grandfathering, which means that if they implement this plan fully, but by 2022, if you're not age 65 in 2022, you're out. Nobody gets grandfathered. So that's 5 years away, 4 years away, 3 years away. It's worse, isn't it? Okay? So, but they didn't implement it yet either. So what they said was, actually they said 5 years after date of implementation. The implementation was supposed to be 2017, but we and everybody else in the world that we knew in Washington that knew the advocate group. We worked with ARP, we worked with PRC, we worked with the AFL-CIO. There are 4 groups in Washington that count in this business of retiree advocacy: the NRLN, us, the ARP, and ARP is very reluctant to attack any problem that has to do with insurance because 80% of their revenue comes from insurance policies, cruises, and so forth. Over 80% of the revenue. Their revenue is over $2 billion a year, by the way. So they don't get their money from dues. They make their money from marketing fees. They never have to do a thing. They just put their brand on insurance. National healthcare, they did. United Healthcare. Billions of dollars. I think it's billions of dollars in income from these insurance companies. So, but anyhow, so we the advocate group said, wait a minute, that's bull. Back up on that. And at the point that Paul Ryan didn't get this job done is when he decided he wasn't going to go any farther, because he had built his whole career on this. I met in his budget office when he was budget director 2 times. Talked about 2 subjects. One of them was prescription drugs, and I said, you're from Wisconsin. People from Wisconsin can go across the border any day, as long as they fill a 90-day supply, bring it back into this country, and nothing said, isn't that good? I said, I'm glad you did that, and everybody, legislators from Wisconsin passed those laws. He said, yeah. He said, that was great. And I said, well, will you submit a bill so that everybody else in this country can benefit by buying their prescription drugs in Canada also? You're supposed to represent the country, not just Wisconsin. You're here in Washington, D.C., you're chairman of the budget committee. That's not the budget committee for Wisconsin, that's the budget committee for this country. He said, I can't do that. I said, why? He said, because our plan doesn't include it. Would you could say, would you like to explain that? He said, no. You ever get those letters from your congressman? I love you very much, I do all this for you, if you're ever around, stop in and see me, thank you for writing. They never answer the question. They never, they're great at it. So now let's move forward. Another one. Now, the Kaiser Foundation made their study and said that the payments to MA enrollees were 9.9% higher. That's the one that I just showed you with the $10,000 per capita with Medicare Advantage and with Medicare. And the hidden agenda is to privatize Medicare using MA plans and taxpayer money. That's why we say privatization. The Medicare Advantage plans are privatization's Trojan horse. It just happened. So we believe they should rescind the MA plan extra benefits as a conclusion. Now let's go to the proposals. Our recommendations, and we lobbied these on the Hill starting last September. And we're going back on February the 25th and 6th and 7th. I'll be in Washington. We'll fly in people from all over the country. By the way, we have members in all 50 states. We have what we call grassroots committees in 75% of the congressional districts across the country. That's 75% of 435 congressional districts. And we have 7 regional vice presidents and a guy who runs the grassroots organizations in Shreveport. My VP of communications is in the mountains of Colorado, above Colorado Springs and Woodland Springs. The treasurer is in Detroit. We operate dynamically with social media, with electronics, and with business case construction through AREF. We have a lobbyist, registered lobbyist, Allison Parker, Washington, D.C. Michael Calabrese, who's a Harvard undergrad and a Stanford Law graduate, is our strategic advisor. But we run this whole thing on about $350,000 a year.
Wow.
So, pretty good deal. So what we want to do is grandfather. Let's let them put their money where their mouth is on this. Grandfather the 18 million people, the 33% who currently have Medicare Advantage plans. Protect them for any benefit reductions should privatization result in a restructuring where all you can deal with then is a private insurance company. There will be no government at the end of the road here. People who say big government is bad, in this case, are all wet. They are all wet because we've been through this before, coming up through the ranks, right? Trying to get the best deal you could from every insurance companies, and you see 15 of them, your eyes get blurry, and you say, oh, what the hell? I'm staying with the guy I had last year. Car insurance, medical insurance, whatever it might be. It's very, very difficult to make those kinds of decisions, especially when you're confused by what they say are the facts. So what we're trying to do is just get the facts out there to people. Make your own judgment. In some groups, I went down to Florida. I went over to west of Tallahassee, where the Air Force Base is, Pensacola. And I met with Monsanto retirees. 200 people on a Saturday morning, raining outside. And I said about the same thing here about Medicare Advantage plans. This is 4 years ago. We've got to be careful because there's a reason they want to do that. And I talk about this is how we view what's going to happen, and it's happened. And you know what they did? They almost threw me out of the room. They said, get out of it. They're all like 65, 66 years old, still playing baseball and football and running around. You guys are very athletic. You stay in shape. But if you don't stay in shape, that's when things start happening that are bad for you. So anyhow, these people were mad. I mean, I had to talk fast. I couldn't change the subject very quickly. I had to kind of slide it easily, but they were really mad. You're taking away, don't take away that's a great deal, it's a good deal. And I said, yes it is. God bless you if it's there in 15 years for you. But if it's not, it's going to cost you a lot of money to replace that insurance. And so anyhow, so what we're saying is we have to protect the people who in good faith bought into this. And if indeed government says it's okay, then fine, it's okay. But evaluate Medicare Advantage plans versus traditional Medicare financials. Disclose the cost of effectiveness and value of Medicare without taxpayer subsidies. Do an apples to apples, fair market. You don't get any subsidies, the traditional Medicare doesn't get any subsidies. Just like on these new subsidies on bars in your shower and things like that. If you have A and B and you don't have a Medicare Advantage plan, you're not going to see it. You're not going to get those benefits. You're not entitled to it. Because the traditional Medicare A and B is not going to be changed. So this business of doctor visits and buying over-the-counter prescriptions and so forth, that's only going to be for Medicare Advantage people, not for traditional A and B. So you got to ask yourself, is that fair competition? Or does one person in that competition have their arms tied behind their back? We're asking the CBO, the GAO, which is the Government Accounting Office, and the Inspector General for the HHS, who has written damning articles about this as well, to re-examine this whole thing and tell us, with these subsidies stripped out on paper through analysis, what's the best deal for America? And then go for it, make it happen. And then abandon the foolish waste of duplicate programs and attack the real problem, the cost of health care. And so the rest of it is to save Medicare, and it's to save it for no other reason. We might be okay, but for our kids and their kids. Questions?
I'm not sure if I'm correct in this, but my understanding is the Village's Health, which kind of kicked some of us to the curb, but other people took the United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan in order to be part of the Village's Health. And my understanding is that the Village's Health is paid each month for each patient, whether they go to the doctors or not.
Yes.
Is that true? And why? And how does that affect?
That's a capitation payment. What I said to you is that what happens the way this works is what they call benchmarking. Every county in the country has benchmarks set by the HHS, Health and Human Services people. And it might say, in this county, the benchmark cost for this plan, this type plan, is $900. And then they go out and they ask the insurance companies to bid. They bid on a plan, and their bid might be $700. If it is, every month they get back 75% of the difference as a rebate. And if they have good quality, they get a kickback. And if they have this, there are a lot of stupid incentives. You know what a good a bad incentive program is? Everyone ever invented. Everyone is where people can reward by doing a little more work, a little better quality, basically doing what they promised in the first place. If you start rewarding people for that, what happens? If you're on the receiving end of the benefit, you start cheating the system. Because you know better than the boss how the system really works. I turn in the paperwork. So capitation payments are paid per month, per enrollee, to the insurance company based upon their bid, risk-adjusted bid for that policy in that county. So here in your county, your United Healthcare bid a per capitation payment amount to be paid for every enrollee in this county to the insurance company.
But
And
not,
if you're,
not to the Village's Health.
they're the service provider. They're not the insurance carrier.
No, my understanding was that the Village's Health gets paid each month.
Yes.
That's-
Through an agreement with the insurance company. But you don't know whether they're paying them $900 or $600 or $500. They get paid, the insurance company gets paid the capitation payment, and then they negotiate with the doctors and the lawyers and the hospitals. Okay? Whereas in traditional Medicare, the doctors and the lawyers and the hospitals are told, here's what you're going to get if you do an appendectomy. Here's what you're going to get if you have an office call. And that's what they get paid. Okay, more?
Lawsuit against Obamacare about pre-existing conditions will
Yes.
also have an effect on Medicare. On pre-existing.
Well, to the extent that the subsidies are involved, it could, yeah. Yeah, there would be no subsidies involved. Yes, yes. Everything has an effect on everything else in Washington. Yes, ma'am. No? Okay, one other thing. Please sign up. Help. Don't forget, we've got a local chapter. Help them. Sign up and get our emails. And you'll find that you'll like it. Thank you very much again.